Hey there, it's Mark. Welcome to Nerd News Now for October 24th, 2018. I survived Dallas Fan Days. Wait till you see my Uber ride. Also, we talk about a very special episode of Doctor Who, and I take one for the team and binge watch Daredevil Season 3. Hello, welcome to Nerd News Now for October 24th, 2018. I'm Mark, along with, as always, Miss Jen and Ashford. Guys, it's getting super cold outside.
I'm wearing my flannels.
Yeah.
They're fake, but...
it just got cold all of a sudden. The news is heating up a little bit. Starting with TV, so on Gotham... You know, it's obviously like a prequel series. They've had a lot of different iterations of all their different characters. They had this whole Joker thing that kind of built up and went nowhere, then went somewhere, then went nowhere, then went wherever. And then obviously like Catwoman is very young, Batman's very young. So now they're going to introduce Bane.
I saw the image today.
Yeah, so they have set picture of Bane, and I'm just kind of wondering, whenever you've seen this character now, 5 different times, do you get excited about seeing like him in a separate pocket universe?
Yes. I'm actually excited because, so my Bane is the classic comic book Bane that has like the full-on venom infuser things, and this doesn't mean as much to his character as all that stuff hanging out and pumping him up with adrenaline and making him all giant muscles on muscles. That's the thing that I was missing from the movie version of his. Tom Hardy was amazing in his part, but I was just kind of like, there's no explanation for why he's so powerful and big. And I can see that in this costume, that they've got all this cool, like, lines and stuff that are going up clearly to his mask. You can see how it's going to get to him. I'm liking it.
I like the Bane in the Young Justice. He would speak Spanish, and I thought it was kind of true to the character. Mm-hmm. I thought had a good feel for it.
Yeah.
And they also did a real good explanation of that character and how he got his powers. But he was also like super muscular to the point of, hyper exaggerated.
Yeah.
So it'll be nice with this one. A lot of people are, saying though that it looks like they almost stripped like an old AC for parts and stuff. As far as like the, and a jacket from Goodwill or what have you. But I mean, I think it just depends on how they're gonna do this. Because Gotham's just a very different show. If you're open to it, it's fine because it just adds to whatever. But if you're looking at it to be like continuation of Christopher Nolan's Batman universe, then...
What's interesting, that whole thing of born in a prison and I'm going to serve the years from the sins of my father, that's some deep stuff.
Yeah. And just in general, I think that, used to, you had one iteration of characters, right? Like you basically, like growing up, we had, Batman 66, and then at some point we got to see reruns of like the Justice League cartoon. Batman's probably the exception, but there was, certain villains that they're not going to be on every iteration of everything. But now there's been so much stuff, like all the movies, Lego games, just obviously Justice League Unlimited, Young Justice, Batman the Animated Series. So we've had so many different 8, 9, 10 versions of all the major Batman villains by now.
Hey, think about this, like reoccurring things like Shakespeare, Rasputin, we do Dracula, Frankenstein. Mm-hmm. You mean to tell me that we have this thing where, we see an iteration of them, something created in the 1990s? And Mark and we interviewed Chuck Dixon, one of the co-creators.
Super jealous.
Yeah. One of the co-creators of Bane, and it's pretty wild, crazy stuff, huh?
Yeah, and it's also just interesting how that character has sort of become synonymous, obviously with breaking Batman's back, but just sort of a big menacing villain that sort of stuck around. And then, like you mentioned, Dixon, he just finished that arc, or that 12-issue miniseries, Bane Conquest.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the character stands on his own. Be interesting to see how he works within that Gotham universe. In other TV news, I mean, the biggest thing that happened was Daredevil was released
Off the chain.
on Netflix. Yeah, it is awesome. Like, people have been raving about season 1 since it came out. Season 2 is a mixed bag. I think with me, I put it high up there just because of John Barenthal as the Punisher.
Yeah.
And the scenes between the Punisher and the Kingpin.
Mm-hmm.
But season 2, there was some other stuff going on. The Defenders clouded all those things, and it's just been sort of like a convoluted mess.
Mm-hmm.
And then before this hit on Friday, Iron Fist had already been canceled, which we already knew might come because it was down to 10 episodes, so they reduced the order before it even hit Netflix, which is never a good sign. But what bummed me out is that Luke Cage has been canceled.
I've heard about
so
this.
that is
My
not
heart is broken.
Not getting a season 3. However, the one hope I have is that they haven't said those characters are going anywhere. What they probably should have done, definitely over Iron Fist season. Luke Cage season 2 was great. Iron Fist season 2, what they probably should have done is just went ahead and turned it into Heroes for Hire.
Oh, that would be wonderful. Maybe they still can.
Well, I mean, that's what the hope is, but now it's kind of being bogged down in all the Disney and Fox merger acquisitions because Disney's starting their streaming service and they're not going to pull any punches. So Netflix really doesn't know if they're going to be able to continue this little Marvel universe that they built up. So that's the unfortunate thing. But yeah, Daredevil, it goes back to its roots. It's him versus Kingpin. Bullseye's in the mix. There's some other surprises of characters that I won't spoil.
I heard D'Onofrio steals it.
Oh, yeah. Well, he did from the beginning. What's unfortunate about the Netflix series is that the MCU will never include, these actors, right?
Yeah.
So now remember, Daredevil season 1 came out, 5, 6, 7 Marvel movies ago. Yeah. But at that time, he was better than anything they showed on the big screen. So, with the exception of maybe Loki, but I don't ever think of Loki as a super villain. Guy. Yeah. So Thanos obviously probably rivals Kingpin or might, but he puts on, it's an acting tour de force that he does. So with that though, we don't know if we're going to get any more Daredevil, so I guess we just got to enjoy it. And it's hard to enjoy stuff in a binge culture. Because as soon as you're done, you just want more. And you want to hear that, here's when Jessica Jones comes out. And here's when Luke Cage comes out. But we're not hearing that. So it's a little bit on hold.
I wish they would do kind of the way the Marvel movies worked really well. That they would have a Marvel movie and then they'd have a show running. And it would roll straight into that. Just immediately into it. And then that would carry forward. I wish they'd do that with all of these shows, that you would get the end of one season, you get bounced right into the beginning of a next season. You could just enjoy Marvel all the time. For DC too, really.
Well, I think if it was a more integrated universe, they'd be able to do that a lot more easily because with S.H.I.E.L.D., they've always been very hesitant. They'll mention one of the movies at some point in one of the episodes out of the 22 to 24 episodes they have in the standard season, and then that's it. They don't really fully incorporate it. And Kevin Feige, the head of Marvel, has always been sort of on the fence about, we're gonna make this a part of the MCU or maybe, or I don't know. And it just always seems to be that they're not, because there's a lot of characters that they don't really want to use on television if they're going to be able to secure, a film for those characters.
That's true.
But there's some characters that work just as well on television, like Ghost Rider worked really well in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. a couple seasons back. But I have to be careful because a lot of people like the Nick Cage movies, which I don't get.
I've seen them. I've seen them multiple times.
I'm not angry at them. I like Nick Cage. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I like Nick Cage too. Have y'all seen Mandy or a trailer for it?
No.
It's crazy. It is full blown crazy Nick Cage. If that's what you're into, that is where you should go.
Go Google some Nick Cage Superman tryout footage.
The thing I like about him is that he is an actual genuine fan of comic booking. He had one of the best collections of all time for a while. And I I can see that in the way he does things on screen. If he loves it, you can tell.
Think about his name. Where he got it
Yeah.
from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he is a very impassioned person.
Yeah.
That's for sure. So if he would have ever been able to do Superman, I'm sure he would have tried. I just don't know if it would have translated. It definitely would have translated in that Christopher Reeve, Henry Cavill mold. It would have been totally different.
He would have made it his own thing. And I think we'll never know. It would have been cool to see him put his spin on it and see what happens.
Or it might have been just Wicker Man with a cape. But moving on. So, Ashford, you had talked about a very special episode of Doctor Who that was coming up.
I'm so excited.
So this past Sunday, they had Rosa Parks' episode. How was it?
Yeah, so I saw the episode of Doctor Who's the third episode of Series 11 called Rosa, and it was some cool stuff. I just watched it a second time. I'm podcasting with 3 other women from 3 different backgrounds. One who's from Alabama. They tried to get me to watch Doctor Who back in 2007, and I watched it like 7 years later. Mm-hmm. And it was some great stuff, and I'm sad to say that right now, Jodie Whittaker is my doctor.
Oh, why would you be sad about that?
Why are you sad?
I'm sorry, guys. I don't want to be offensive, but I love Tom Baker. I am Tom Baker. I love cosplaying as him.
Yep,
I get him. I understand him. And I'm a new Whovian. Yeah. And I love Tom Baker. And I was like, for me to really declare Jodie Whittaker as my doctor, she has to at least do it for 2 seasons and then have like substantial episodes. Like she has to have a Blink. She has to have a Listen. Like she has to have these monumental, but there's certain lines that are being said. And I'm sorry, I can't remember the writer's name, but it's co-written by Chris Chibnall, and a woman is the first woman of color to write a Doctor Who episode. I think her last name is Blackman, but I forget her first name. I'm sorry, guys. And you can follow her on Twitter. She's very happy about the responses that she's been receiving. And I've been tweeting about this episode. This is the most responses I've ever gotten on a Twitter tweet. And there's certain words that are being said. There's certain lines that are being said. I like Jodie Whittaker. Like, usually with Earth situations, she'll say like, the doctors say this is a fixed point in time. Like you can't change Pompeii. You can't change John F. Kennedy from being killed. But then they'll go outer space and like we don't know anything about space history, so they could kill someone or accidentally genocide a planet, and we won't go like, wait a minute, that was a fixed point. They don't care. And what's crazy about this, guys, when you watch Doctor Who, she's facing Daleks, Cybermen, Centurions. This is the third time where, not even the third time, just there's a lot of times where the Doctor faces historical earthbound stuff, and it's way scarier than any alien or monster. So, like, the Doctor and her companions, 2 of them are people of color. It's like the most intense stuff just dealing with the politics of 1950s Alabama folk, of segregation. It was more intense than watching some scary Dalek episode. So
they got really into the deep core.
Yes,
of that.
they didn't pull any punches. I thought that they kept it real, and it's certain lines that Jodie Whittaker's doctor said where when I watched it the second time, I went, you know what? I haven't seen another doctor do this, even when they're putting places to do it. And the thing is, every doctor is the same. And certain things that we're seeing with this doctor, you wouldn't have gotten it without Tennant. You wouldn't have gotten this without William Hartnell. You wouldn't have gotten this without John Pertwee. All of them had to do the things that they did to get to this point. So basically is what I think every Whovian would say. My favorite doctor is whatever one's on that TV screen. But right now, unless, and I hate to say that she's my favorite doctor and there's only 3 episodes in and then they go to a 4th episode and it's a dud, but it was just certain things that was done in this one. And I thought she was very time-lordy because this was something where, there were some power gadgets going on, but they still had to deal with like 1950s time, and it was just her being a time lord of, we just need to make sure that this event happens. Mm-hmm. So like whatever it takes. So I thought she was being time lord. She wasn't just being the doctor, which she's doing a good job of. but I thought she was being a Time Lord or Time Lady. I'm old fashioned, so
So
good stuff. I loved it.
I haven't got to watch any of them yet. Does she have any, like, does she have a screwdriver yet? Does she have a contraption?
Well, I'm just going to
uniquely
spoil
hers?
it. Not only does she have a screwdriver, she created it.
Oh, she built her own like a Jedi?
She created her own sonic screwdriver with the steel from the town that she was in that's known for having that type of steel, those elements. Yeah, so I don't know. I think like these 3 episodes, like they're cool, but they're solid. So if it can lead to like every episode being solid so I can have a classic season, that's what I'm rooting for now.
Ooh, it's a high bar.
Mm.
And I actually knew that she created her own from a fan that was dressed like her at Dallas Fan Days. So that's obviously like resonating with people. Like she already within 3 episodes is really resonating with fans, and I haven't heard anything that's not completely positive. So we know that we're seeing all these series that there's usually 1 or 2 episodes that you forget about, but we'll see. Maybe she can get a perfect 10.
I think I'm just having fun with she has multiple companions that she's calling her friends, and she was debating on, should I call you guys a crew? Should I call you a gang? And then she's like, I'll call you friends. But there was one point where she said, come on, let's go, gang. I loved it. And I like this doctor because like she's gentle, and then there'll be some times where the companions aren't around and she is telling someone, you will not threaten me. So what's cool about this series right now, the companions that she has, they don't know that she used to be a man. They don't know really that she's a Time Lord. And they don't know that, hey, I've done some shady things. So anytime like she has to get down in the gutter, they're not around. See, they don't know that like I got dirt under my nails. So
they're never going to find out.
Maybe, but I like how things are just kind of, it's layered. Mm-hmm. And then it's some, I don't know. I think they're giving the companions some interesting elements that we haven't seen before. Ooh. So I just think like with a show where it's just a bunch of running around, like they're doing the same thing over, it's just a bunch of running around. I think they're approaching it in a new way, which is like, how can you approach a show that's 54 years old in a new way? And I think that they're doing it. Chris Shiffer's doing a good job. Yeah.
I'm going to binge it, of course. It's all being recorded.
You're lucky.
I
wish I had the discipline to wait it off and binge it. Yeah.
Well, you're going to be the man in the know, though.
Yeah, because I'm doing this podcast straight out of Gallifrey, and it's better now for me because as Americans, watching a TV show on Sundays, that's our history. Like watching Married with Children on Sunday, that's what you live for. Yep. Watching The Simpsons on a Sunday,
X-Files.
like for the United States, and I'm not trying to be American-centric, but why not?
Yeah.
Saturday viewing? It's kind of weird, right? Like when you're in 8th grade, yeah, I'm going to watch 227. Yeah, I'm going to watch Saturday Night Live. But I'm 39. Well, yeah, I should be at home watching TV, but if I want to party and stuff, Saturday night viewing? So Sunday's pretty cool. But when it came on Saturday nights, I was watching Saturday nights too. So go figure. And tell me what you come up with.
I don't know if I watch anything live anymore, just with the DVR.
It's only like 4 things that I really try to make a point of watching live. But yeah, everything else, DVR.
Yeah, sports, that's about it. So we're going to, just some real quick movie news. So going from the small screen to the big screens, but sticking with the concept of time because there's a movie that was supposed to be out in 2019. Now it's been pushed back a year. It's Wonder Woman 1984.
I saw that today.
So in 2018, we find out that Wonder Woman 1984 is not going to be till 2020. It's just a bunch of numbers. Like, does it really mess people up? Like, do you think anyone was already waiting in line to see it in 2019?
I don't think so. So let's think about this as far as the Warner Brothers DC. You have Shazam, okay? Yep. Then you have Aquaman, right?
Yep.
So if we got to wait till 2020, will it be 2 more things before that?
Might be.
What else might be in the works?
Is it going to be the New Gods? Will that come out?
Oh, maybe. There's been lots of buzz about that.
Well, I know that they're going to put Wonder Woman in the middle of the year, so we have Birds of Prey in 2020 early.
That's right.
And then we know that James Gunn has now moved over and working on Suicide Squad, but I doubt they would rush production on that, although you never know.
So this is something that, I don't know anything about the Wonder Woman news as far as the narrative, but I like that, if you watch Wonder Woman, it's during the World War I, or what they would have called back then, the Great War, the war to end all wars, which, coming from the future, when you watch a movie and they say that, it's kind of depressing because that's not the war to end all wars. No. Especially when someone's earnest about it and that character really believes, like, how could there be a war after this? Well, the technology is so great, we're going to kill everybody. How could it be a war after this? So I thought that movie was awesome because if you watch the scenes, even when supernatural things happen, it didn't get recorded. So it wouldn't distort our history books. And then if it's in the 80s and they're dealing with Cold War stuff, well, that's hashtag espionage. So again, that's underground. I like the fact that if we're going to see Wonder Woman in the 80s, don't do something where, well, that should be in my history book in 2018. So if they still like, I'm doing this wild stuff, I'm on a submarine, I'm doing all these things, but you don't see it on the news, it's not going to be Oliver North doing a hearing and Wonder Woman's right next to him. That's going to be cool. So,
I actually was happy to see, of course, the still image that I saw had Trevor in it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because he was bathing. Remember when he was bathing in that Amazon water bath? Mm-hmm. I'm thinking that made him immortal or something.
Oh, that would be way cool.
Maybe.
And people love that character, so I guess they're like, we can't kill his version of Steve Trevor. Yeah. I
really enjoyed the way he played that part, too.
What do you think about the 80s? You like the 80s? Do you think it's overplayed? Do you like the blue eyeshadow and the big hair and the shoulder pad? Do I have that? The shoulder pad jackets? Do you like that?
That was totally my generation, so yeah.
So, I mean, I remember that. And the thing I like about the 80s cartoons and rap music, but I got to say, I'm looking forward to, and I'm not comparing them, I'm not putting competition between them, I want both to happen, but because I'm such a 90s guy, I'm waiting for Captain Marvel. But trust me, I want Wonder Woman to happen. But 80s, 90s, I'm picking ones because I want to be decisive. 90s, Captain Marvel, blockbuster.
There was a lot of tension in the 80s. You had Cold War,
yes.
You had the Missile Crisis. There's a lot of stuff that was going on. So it felt really weird as a kid because they made us do drills. I don't think our kids now currently do any drills. There's no duck and cover going on, but we still had that when I was growing up.
Well, the kids, when we did it, we were ducking and cover because a nuclear blast might pop off. Oh, but I said nuclear correctly. Now the kids are doing duck and cover because an intruder might come in and shoot everyone.
That's true.
Yeah. So even like in the 80s, the Cold War seeped into the Butter Battle book by Dr. Seuss, where you butter your bread with the butter side up, you butter your bread with the butter side down. We hate each other. Cold War, they were, I got this weapon, you got this weapon. And it was insinuated that they were probably stealing weapons, which even in our comedies, Spies Like Us, guys in the 80s, even the comedies was dealing with the Cold War. Yep. Rocky IV dealing with the Cold War. And it's like, remember, the Russians were the enemies in Rocky IV? And then there's going to be Creed 2. Who are the enemies? I don't know. The Russians again.
Yes, they are.
Dude, as humans, we deal with 7-year cycles. Like, we think we're advancing, like, after 7 years, start over again. And we keep going like, wait a minute, didn't we have this problem, like, I don't know, 7 years ago? We can't handle longer than 7 years, so we keep repeating the same mistakes. Yeah. Even with internet and high digital television.
Just dishing it to you now.
Yeah. Well, going back to either from sticking with comics, going from a big screen to a small screen if you read on tablet or if you still read on paper. But new comics this week, and we're going to throw it to you, Miss Jen. You're our resident expert on that. The one thing I know that I want to read is, let me see if I can get this right, Spider-Geddon, Spider-Gwen, Ghost Spider. Is that right?
Oh, that was good.
Two colons in there.
Yeah, if you like alliteration, this is your week.
and Spider-Man has been, for years now, it seems like Spider-Man, at least once a year, has been doing, Edge of Spider-Verse, Spider Island, all these big. So because Spider-Man is one of their bigger characters, I guess they're always doing these crossover events once every, 1, 2, or 3 years. So what do you know about that one, and maybe specifically why has Spider-Gwen sort of become Ghost Spider?
Well, it doesn't address the Ghost Spider aspect at all in the first issue, actually.
Okay.
It's more about her showing up in a universe that's not her own, and she's trying to figure out which one she's in and who she might be able to talk to help her get out back to her own. Not very spoilery, but like Oscorp even is like a defunct abandoned building in the one she gets stuck in. And so the issue is mostly about her finding different characters that exist there. There's also spider characters and interacting with them, trying to figure out what to do. And there's 2 other Spider-Verse books that happen this week also. Spider-Verse number 2 drops this week, which kind of doesn't address hers directly, but the greater storyline. And then Spider-Girls, which is a bunch of characters we've seen before in all of the different universes that are Spider-Girls. And adding some new. I think there's like new characters that drop both in the Ghost Spider and in the Spider-Girls book. So that's pretty cool. It's like you can get your read on this week for sure. And there's a new issue of ASM too. So.
And they must have planned the whole Ghost Spider thing, because I know on the Disney XD cartoon Marvel Rising that is out now, that is her moniker, is Ghost Spider.
Yep.
So I mean maybe they're just trying to get. Maybe they just thought, when Spider-Gwen started, it was basically something that kind of came out of the whole variant, cover craze and all this stuff,
maybe.
And just like mashing up the name. Maybe they just thought that was like, well, we want her to have like a more, powerful name than just Spider-Gwen, because it's more, that obviously gives away your secret identity.
Yeah.
like right away.
I think she points it out. She's like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know what I like, though, in Spider-Man 2, when his face was exposed and he was trying to stop the subway train? Mm-hmm. You know what? There's so many people in New York, you're not going to remember what I look like.
No.
Yeah.
Like,
and that was before smartphones. Sorry.
Yeah, because now...
now I will...
Yeah, you'd be on the cloud and be bad.
There's a character that also appears in that book that you might remember and like, that is also supposed to be in the animated film. Spider-Ham is there.
All right, yeah. I was into Pig Snort.
Yeah.
Yeah, John Mulaney is voicing Spider-Ham Into the Spider-Verse, so that's going to be awesome.
Service.
Yeah. What are your other top 2 or 3 picks for this week?
So I just want to mention one more because it's caught fire on the internet. It's already like spiked like big time on the secondary market. It's Dead Kings by Aftershock. Aftershock's been putting out some good titles recently. But for some reason, this one caught everyone's attention. I don't know if it was a little print run or what's going on, but it's essentially a story about twins that are born during some giant robot attack. And it's kind of like you just see a few pages of that, and then it jumps way far in the forward in the future. And it looks like they are living in a place called Rus, which is assuming short for Russia. And because all the characters' names are Russian. Some of the clue. I think they're thinking we're going to be smart enough to figure this out. And so it looks like it's a big story arc that's kind of trying to figure out who belongs where. And it looks like the twins, they're grown now and are separated from each other. And it looks like a crazy, weird future. Really bizarre. But the art is really gorgeous. So I think that's going to be the big buzz. And then there's continuing parts of a couple storylines through DC. The Witching Hour that's been running through Justice League. And then there's more of the Aquaman storyline, Drowned Earth.
Okay. Well, if they can make a good story with giant robots, it's going to do really well.
Probably.
Because there's a lot of very popular stories with giant robots that aren't that great. Because people love robots and they love good stories. If you can combine them both, more power to you.
And I'm glad that the term robot has made a comeback, because we would hear androids, cyborgs, like in the late 90s, early 2000s. So I'm glad that people are saying robots again.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I guess it's technically way more specific, right? Because like the other two would involve some sort of like combination with humans, but whatever happened to good old-fashioned robots?
Yeah. Teddy Ruxpin.
Yeah, and Rock'em Sock'em. Rock'em Sock'em
the
robots.
Iron Giant is the best of them all.
Yeah, the Iron Giant is really good. You know what else is really good is Legos and comic conventions.
Yeah.
We'll have more on those two things right after this.
Football season is here, and Woodlands Online Sports is back better than ever. Watch all the action on KVQT 21 Houston and woodlandsonline.com.
For home repairs, call John Moore, where quality is guaranteed. If the problem returns, so will we. No extra charge.
Call John, get more. 730-2525.
All right, welcome back to Nerd News Now. So one of the things that happened in Houston this past week was Brickfest. We sent out some little geeks to check that out, so here's a preview clip of that.
I'm Chris Danilo. I'm Director of Operations for Open World Events, and this is Brickfest Live in Houston. This is the world's largest Lego show. Bricks than kids probably have ever seen ever. It's like over 1 million Lego bricks here.
So once again, I think Legos are awesome, as long as you just don't step on them. So something like that would be really cool because it's obviously like very interactive. It's a big open space, and it's for fans of all ages.
Yes.
Because a lot of people love Legos. There was also a few Legos in Dallas. I went to Dallas Fan Days. It was up in Irving. It's one of the... it's not quite as big as Comic-Con. Now that the Fan Expo runs Dallas Fan Days and Dallas Comic-Con, this one is the one in Irving. Matt Smith was supposed to be there, but he didn't make it, but I still had a good time anyway. They still had KJ Appa, Archie, like a last second ad. That was awesome.
The girls probably went, woo!
Yeah, girls, guys, whatever. Everyone did. Everyone did. Riverdale was really good television.
Yeah.
And maybe not, just in the sense of like people really get into it, they watch it, they're able to escape, and that's what matters. It's not all about the awards all the time and all that stuff. Now, if it was on HBO, it would be all about the awards, or Netflix. But it's a really good show. Very big fandom. What was interesting is that I didn't really notice any kind of recurring trend on costumes.
Really?
Well, yeah, because over the last I would say 2 years ago, it was just Harley Quinn everywhere. Like you couldn't look without seeing Harley Quinn. And right now, I think that there's so much stuff out that people are just kind of, they're not only pulling from new things, new fandoms, maybe fandoms that they've discovered. Like there was one group that I interviewed that'll be on the full special that you've talked to several times, is Cosplay Gallifrey, the DFW branch up there. And so they already have a 13th Doctor. And they're just really cool group, and obviously very into every iteration of Doctor Who, and they do like all kinds of photo shoots and stuff like that. So you'll see groups like that. You obviously see all kinds of different stormtroopers, rebel pilots, like Star Wars. The 501st was there. They're one of the biggest. They're one of the biggest fan groups, right?
Them and the Rebel Legion, yes.
Yeah, they're just everywhere, and they're just always doing good. Like they're making people smile with their costumes, and they're taking donations, and they do a lot of charity events. So that's one of the good things, regardless of like what celebrities are there. You can always find them. You can always find comic writers. You can always find artists, undiscovered artists. You can always find just cool vendors. So it's good to get out there and spend the money on the floor, because that those people are trying to make a living by supporting fandoms that they love too. One guy that I got to interview was Scott Hepburn. So he currently writes the current run of Deadpool.
Oh, okay.
And I'm sorry, he's an artist. He does the art for current run of Deadpool, and he did a few books on Spider-Man and Deadpool. So here's an excerpt of that interview as a preview to the special that I did that'll be out later this week. Here's an interview with Scott Hepburn. Hey, I'm here in Artist Alley with Scott Hepburn. He has done art that you'll definitely recognize from Spider-Man and Deadpool. Scott, what makes Spider-Man and Deadpool the Cagney and Lacey of their generation?
The Cagney and Lacey, the witty repartee, the sexual tension, the need for validation, mostly from Deadpool. I think just no one's ever compared them to Cagney and Lacey before, but yeah, I think it's just a natural, they're the odd couple. Deadpool was created to be the juxtaposition to Spider-Man like 30 years ago, so I think it's just a natural peanut butter and jam of characters, you know?
And what do you think, like, they're both super witty characters, so do you think they're always trying to constantly one-up each other, or do you think it just meshes really well together?
Yeah, well, I mean, they're both, yeah, exactly. Deadpool's wittiness is like intentionally a play on Spider-Man's wittiness, but yeah, Deadpool, his flavor of comedy is so much darker. They have a nice balancing act together, you know?
And now, you mentioned that balancing act, but now you're actually working on the current Deadpool series. Number 6 comes out in a couple weeks. How is it drawing just him without Spider-Man? Is there any differences?
No, it's great. I mean, I love Spider-Man. I love drawing everybody, you know. But Deadpool on his own it's a darker book. It's you know, it's still funny, it's still action, but there's a lot more heads getting chopped off, sort of. Yeah, it tends to go into more extreme Deadpoolness when he's on his own. And I think also just the title is intentionally skewed to an older demographic.
Yeah, so it's sort of just like going from a buddy cop show to Game of Thrones.
Yeah, Game of Thrones with like fart jokes.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, that just sounds like a winner right there.
Sure.
Thanks so much for spending the time with us. Hope you're having a good Dallas Fan Days here in Irving, Texas at the Urban Convention Center. This has been Scott Hepburn. Check it out. Deadpool on shelves now. All right, and that was a fun interview. At the very beginning there, I compared Spider-Man and Deadpool to Cagney and Lacey, and he could have just walked off, right? but he put up with it because I was just trying to think of like what's a cool duo. I could have said like anybody. I could have said Rose and Blanche, but then if you say Rose and Blanche, you don't want to leave out the other two Golden Girls.
Yeah.
So I was just like, well, Cagney and Lacey.
Or Kate and
That's
Allie.
cool. But I also met Jaleel White. And that was someone I was really nervous to meet because I grew up on TGIF. Mm-hmm. And that was like running the house because, you know, Family Matters and all that stuff is starting. And I actually talked to him about an episode of Psych that he was in, which is one of my favorite episodes.
It's my favorite episode.
Yeah, where he's in a group with a music group with Dooley Hill. With Gus, and you know, so he was appreciative of that because, you know, who knows how many times he gets like, "You got any cheese?" or "Did I do that?" You know, like on a daily basis. So I think when you can connect with people on something other than the number one thing that they're known for, they're a lot more receptive to talking to you. Corbin Burnson was there. And he had some actually cool stuff, because I go to a lot of these shows, and it's sort of just like all the same stuff to sign, like 8x10s, maybe a buck here or there. But he actually had baseballs and Cleveland Indians jerseys because of Major League. Yeah.
Major League.
Because of Dorn, Major League. So, and I got like a 8x10 signed of him that was like a Topps baseball card, but on a photo. And he was a super nice guy. I took a photo with him. And then other than that, just like walking the floor, meeting people, talking to cosplayers. There was also a guy that was just fantastically dressed like Doctor Strange, like with full-on levitating cape.
Wow.
What?
So yeah, I've got an interview with him, and then also with Sam De La Rosa. He's at a lot of these shows, and I've never taken the time to go talk to him. So because of this, I went and talked to him, got an interview with him. Just a nice guy, and really enjoying the fact that people are enjoying Venom. You know, because he worked on the Lethal Protector as an inker. And so now he's just really, sitting back and having a whole new group of fans because of the movie, because of the, the lasting nature of that character. Mm-hmm. So it's just cool stuff.
I got to play pretend with one of his daughters while we set up for a con once because she just was like wanting to play and no one would play with her. So I was like, I'll play. It was so much fun.
Y'all got anything you're looking forward to in the world of nerddom and geekdom this week or next month?
Gosh.
I'm looking forward to expanding my pull box and getting back into Justice League and Green Lantern with the Miss Cruz woman.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
I'm way behind. I want to know more about it.
Yeah, the Green Lantern new series is going to launch pretty soon, too.
Yeah.
So you've got that coming up. I'm looking forward to, I think, November 26th, if I'm not wrong, is Doctor Who Day. But there's a whole Doctor Who Day coming up. I'm looking forward to see what'll happen. Hey, what are you doing on the day? You want to come and dress up?
I'm going to come and dress up and then also pick up my comic with Jodie Whittaker as the featured doctor. That's going to be pretty cool, right?
Absolutely.
Jodie Hauser and all that.
Mm-hmm. Did you know our store has a variant for the first issue?
Oh, really?
Yep.
Yeah. I put a picture of the TARDIS on Facebook that's in Space Cadets.
One with all the cool, decorating.
Yeah. Oh,
The homage to...
I just got a Missy pop vinyl from Space Cadets. That was cool stuff. That was unexpected. I really love Michelle Gomez, and I've seen a bunch of... Yeah, she's going to blow up on Netflix with that Sabrina.
She is.
And she's acting crazy, and they're allowing it.
Yeah. No, she is. That show is going to be serious. And once again, I'll take one for the team and binge watch that for you guys, so you're not going to watch it.
Oh, it feels bad for you.
But that's all the time we have for now. Look for the Dallas Fan Days coverage that I have. That'll be coming up within the next week. Until next time, for Miss Jen and Ashford, I'm Mark, and this has been Nerd News Now.